Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're anything like me, you're always kind of looking for ways to improve your life.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, who isn't at least a little bit curious about becoming like a better version of themselves?
Right.
So today we're going to do a deep dive into a podcast episode that's all about self-improvement.
Yeah.
We're going to be looking at the path to better you from the Excellence English podcast.
Okay, cool.
Think of this as like a cheat sheet for unlocking your potential.
I like that.
We're going to be exploring stuff like, self-awareness and setting the right goals and how to build good habits.
Yeah, habits are so important.
Oh, and we'll even tackle some of the things that kind of trip us up.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
setbacks and procrastination.
Okay, so like a pretty complete roadmap.
Yeah, and they talk about this really interesting concept called habit stacking,
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
which we'll get into later. But
Yeah.
it's basically this idea of like weaving new habits into your existing routines.
Clever.
Okay, so first let's start at the beginning with self-awareness.
Right.
The episode really emphasizes how crucial self-awareness is as like the foundation for any self-improvement.
It's like they make this analogy with building a house.
Okay.
Like you wouldn't start building walls without a solid foundation, right?
Right.
Self-awareness is that foundation.
It's about knowing what you're good at, what you're not so good at, your values, what motivates you.
Exactly.
Okay, so how do we actually become more self-aware?
Well, they mention a bunch of methods.
Like what?
Journaling, for one.
Oh, yeah.
Where you kind of track your thoughts and feelings and start noticing patterns.
That makes sense.
And then they talk about mindfulness stuff like meditation,
Oh, yeah.
which helps you be more present, and observe your thoughts without judging them.
I've tried meditating a little bit.
Yeah.
It's tough, but I could see how it would help.
Yeah, for sure.
What about getting feedback from other people?
Oh, that's a good one.
That's always a little trickier.
Yeah, but they say it's like a gift.
A gift.
Yeah, for growth.
How so?
Well, even if it's a little tough to hear.
Constructive criticism can show you where you can improve.
Okay.
It's like having a trainer, but for your personality.
That's a cool way to look at it.
Right.
I guess if we can see feedback as an opportunity instead of an attack, it becomes less scary.
Definitely.
It's about embracing those chances to grow right.
Exactly.
Okay, so speaking of growth, let's move on to goal setting.
Yeah.
The episode talks about this SMART goals framework.
Have you heard of that before?
I think I've seen the acronym, but I'm not sure I've really used it.
It stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Okay, that's a mouthful.
I know, right?
I tend to be more of a go with the flow type,
Yeah.
but I can see how that might not always be the best approach.
Well, think about it this way.
Okay.
Let's say your goal is to get healthier,
Pretty big. Yeah.
right? A SMART goal would be something like, I will exercise for 30 minutes, 5 days a week for the next 3 months.
Okay, that's much more specific.
Right. It's actionable.
I can see how that would make you more likely to stick to it. Totally.
It takes the guesswork out.
And that actually leads into their next point about discipline and systems.
Instead of motivation.
Yeah, motivation can be great at first,
Sure.
but it comes and goes.
We all have days where we just don't want it.
Exactly.
But discipline is about showing up even when you don't feel like it.
And systems are those routines and structures that make it easier.
So, like, instead of waiting to feel motivated, I should focus on making a system that makes it automatic.
Exactly.
Like, if I want to read more, I should set a specific time and place to read every day.
You've got it.
No more waiting for the mood to strike.
And they also talk about celebrating small wins.
Oh, that's a good one.
That helps you stay motivated, especially with long-term goals.
It's like acknowledging your progress and keeping things positive.
Exactly.
I have to admit, I tend to get so focused on the end goal
Yeah.
that I forget to appreciate the small victories along the way.
It's easy to do that.
It's almost like setting myself up for disappointment if I don't reach the finish line fast enough.
But every step forward is a win.
You're right.
It's about building that positive reinforcement.
This is all making so much sense.
Good.
I'm already rethinking my approach to all this.
That's great to hear.
And I think it's important to acknowledge that setbacks are going to happen.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, they're part of the process, right?
They talk about resilience
Bouncing back from challenges?
without getting discouraged.
Yeah, I've had my share of setbacks.
It happens to everyone.
So instead of beating myself up, I should try to see them as chances to learn
Exactly.
and adjust my approach.
It's about adopting a growth mindset.
Oh, like Carol Dweck's work.
Yeah, she found that people who believe they can develop their abilities tend to be more resilient
Because they see setbacks as temporary.
and use them to improve.
So how do we actually develop this growth mindset?
It takes effort, for sure.
Right.
One thing they suggest is paying attention to your self-talk.
Especially when you face setbacks.
You know those negative thoughts that creep in?
Oh yeah, like, I can't do this.
Or I'm not good enough.
Those can be so discouraging.
They say to challenge those thoughts
Okay.
and replace them with more positive ones.
So instead of saying, I can't do this,
You could say, I'm learning how to do this.
or I'll keep practicing until I get better.
Exactly. It's like having an inner cheerleader.
I like that a lot.
It can make a big difference.
Okay, so we've covered self-awareness and goal setting and discipline and resilience and mindset,
We have covered a lot.
but I'm still really curious about that habit stacking thing.
Oh, yeah, that's coming up.
It sounds like a game changer.
It is, but let's take a quick pause first.
Okay, let's let all this sink in for a bit.
Sounds good. All right, so are you ready to finally tackle this habit stacking thing?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay, so the podcast explains it as like linking a new habit you want to build to an existing habit that you already do regularly.
So like piggybacking on something you already did.
Yeah, exactly.
Like-
Hitching a ride on an established routine.
I like that.
They had this great example.
Okay.
Imagine you want to start doing push-ups every day,
Yeah,
but you keep forgetting or you just don't feel like it.
I can relate.
Instead of relying on willpower, you stack it onto something you already do, like brushing your teeth.
So every time I brush my teeth.
You do your push-ups right after.
Oh, I see.
So brushing becomes the trigger.
The cue for the push-up.
Exactly.
Takes away the mental effort of having to remember.
Makes it more automatic.
Brilliant.
It's about removing the friction.
Making it as easy as possible to fit into your day.
Right?
I'm already thinking of habits I could stack.
Like what?
Maybe I could finally get into meditation
Oh, yeah.
if I link it to my morning coffee routine.
There you go. See?
Find those natural connections.
And this actually ties into the habit loop idea.
Oh yeah, they mentioned that briefly.
It's from that book, Atomic Habits.
By James Clear.
He breaks down habits into 4 stages.
Cue, craving, response, and reward.
Right? The cue triggers the habit. The craving is the motivation behind it. The response is the actual action you take,
And the reward is the good feeling you get afterwards.
which reinforces the whole loop.
So with habit stacking,
You're using the reward of one habit to fuel the craving for the new one.
okay, that makes sense.
You're tapping into an existing reward system.
This is really cool.
I know, right?
Like I'm finally understanding how habits work.
And how to actually change your behavior.
Exactly.
But even with the best strategies,
You're gonna hit some bumps in the road.
yeah, setbacks are going to happen.
That's part of the process.
So how do you avoid getting totally derailed?
That's a good question.
That's where mindset comes back in.
Oh, right.
Remember Carol Dweck and the growth mindset?
Yeah.
It's about seeing those setbacks as opportunities.
Not as failures.
Right. So instead of getting discouraged, you try to analyze what happened and learn from it.
Adjust my approach.
Exactly. Turn those setbacks into stepping stones.
That's a much more positive way to look at it.
Right.
And it makes sense because self-improvement is a journey.
Not a destination.
It's about continuous growth, not perfection.
And speaking of journeys,
Yeah.
I think we should move on to our next topic.
Okay.
We still have a lot to cover.
Like what?
How to beat procrastination
Well, that's a big one.
and finding balance in our pursuit of self-improvement.
Okay, I'm ready for more. Okay, so we're back. And, you know, as we've been talking about all this,
Yeah.
I've realized something.
Oh, what's that?
It's really all about balance, isn't it?
A balance.
Like we've talked about ambition and setting goals,
Right.
but also self-compassion and accepting that setbacks happen.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
The episode really emphasizes that balance.
Like when they talked about realistic expectations,
Yeah.
dreaming big, but also breaking things down into smaller steps.
Right, like the book example.
Instead of getting overwhelmed by the whole book.
Just focus on writing 500 words a day.
Exactly.
It shifts the focus to something you can actually do.
And it makes me think about what we said about systems and routines
Creating a structure that supports your goals.
without feeling overwhelmed.
It's about finding that sweet spot, you know?
Between pushing yourself and being kind to yourself.
Progress, not perfection.
Exactly.
But even when we have a balanced approach.
There's still that procrastination thing.
Ugh. Yeah. Any advice on dealing with that?
Well, they said it often comes from fear or feeling overwhelmed.
Makes sense.
So they recommend breaking tasks down,
Okay.
using the 2-minute rule.
What's that?
If it takes less than 2 minutes, just do it now.
I don't like that.
And also creating accountability
Ow.
by sharing your goals with others.
That 2-minute rule is a game changer.
I know, right?
Sometimes I get so stuck in planning mode,
That you never start,
but if I just commit to 2 minutes,
it gets you going.
it creates momentum.
And telling others about your goals can really help too.
It's like having extra support.
And a little push.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm realizing that self-improvement isn't about some huge transformation.
It's more about small changes over time.
Exactly.
Those little actions repeated day after day.
That's what makes the difference.
And it's a journey we don't have to do alone.
Right. The episode talked about surrounding yourself with supportive people.
Friends, family, mentors.
People who believe in you.
They can make all the difference.
So as we come to the end of our exploration,
Yeah,
what resonated most with you?
that's a good question.
What's one small thing you can do today to start applying some of this?
Self-improvement is a lifelong journey, not a destination.
Embrace the process, celebrate your progress, and never stop learning.
That's great advice.
And remember, you are capable of amazing things.
I believe that.
With a little self-awareness, clear goals, and consistent action.
You can achieve anything.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into self-improvement.
Yeah.